All right, welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Canby. This is episode 38, and we have a special show because today we have the OSG Championship chat. So first of all, we have the 80 kilo winner from last year. We have Ricky Panganaban, and most recently broke the axle clean and press record for the 80 kilo class. And then we also have Mr. Nikolai Myers, 90 kilo winner from last year from the official Strongman Games. And he also broke his own record in the circus dumbbell back in April. So we have the 80, the 90, and the 105 kilo champs all talking all in one place. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for
Glad
having
to be
us.
here.
So how's everybody feeling 4 weeks out from the contest? Which is crazy. It just came so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I mean, everything's lining up perfectly for me and all that. Schedule's looking great. Just ready to go out there in Daytona Beach and just put on a show pretty much.
That's all we can ask for. But yeah, before we get into the OSG, we have some previews we like to talk about. We got some fun questions. We got a lot of fan questions. But let's just catch up with the guys. If of course, Nikolai, if you want to start first, you want to just fill us in since last OSG in terms of your travels and what you've been up to.
Yeah, man. I kind of get all over the place sometimes with things going on. I got a lot going on. I dabble in motorsports as well, as you guys see. So I've been doing some stuff with the Nitro Circus team. I'm from Maryland. They're out of Maryland. So I've been rooted with them. But since OSG, after OSG, I prepped for the Circus Dumbbell World Record. It was set by Leroy Smith at around 237, 238 pounds. I actually missed my first attempt in Nashville and completely trashed a dumbbell down there. And then Clash gave me second chance, and I opened at a new world record of 242. Everyone saw that. There was misload drama, but in my opinion, it just added to the spectacle of the show and got more people engaged with the moment. And then I turned around and broke it again into 252.6 whatever pound press, and I believe it is pound for pound the strongest dumbbell ever pressed. So after that, I went right into prep for Clash pretty much, and I had an injury from years back. I would say leading up to post 2019 OSG. I had crunched my L5S1 warming up on front squats, sub 200 pounds on the bar. Weight guys like all of us do in our sleep any given day, and just the right angle, and the inflammation got so bad it shut my hip flexors down. Now fast forward, rebounded from that. It happened in prep for Clash, and I had a tweak about 5 weeks out, and then about 2 weeks prior, so I immediately went into rehab. 2 weeks prior, I was feeling good, and I got 3 reps in on a 600-pound deadlift, just maintenance pulls, really trying to just get a couple reps in at comp weight and call it. Effort was probably, 7, 8 out of 10. We weren't going crazy. And I was working on my hitch because, as you know, when you do an AMRAP event, you kind of got to milk everything out of everything out of each rep you can.
Very much like a pound stone hitch.
I call it a trailer park hitch, son. I get way back. I felt it, and immediately I felt the tingling go down through my legs, and I knew I was in for a world of pain in about a minute. So I literally got carried out of the gym, got carried to a cold tub, got on started all my anti-inflammatory procedure. I even called you leading up to Clash as a former champion, and I was going in as a contender. And I was looking forward to competing against guys like CJ, Nick O'Hare, and Devin. They're all great dudes. I have fun with them. And it was going to be a great show, and it still was. And I called you because I had some turmoil with, I felt obligated to follow through with this, but I didn't want to go on and then wreck the end of my year, making something that was iffy worse. And I feel like I made the right decision by withdrawing about a week prior. And you yourself helped me really navigate that with your experience. Because as you know, like going into a show as a champion, you have a target on your back. You're expected to show up. You're expected to perform. And it's hard to step away from things when you're expected to be there and give guys an opportunity to, run what they brung against you. And that's part of it. So I withdrew, and then immediately did about a 3 or 4 week period of just bulletproofing the back. Took our time. My coach Max and my nutritionist, who is also a spinal surgeon, I've got a really good team revolving around that. I couldn't have a better combo with the injury, and we just spent weeks bulletproofing the back, strengthening the core, fine tuning all the little muscles in that area, back raises, and kind of diagnosing or dissecting the video of the injury and my hip position to avoid that in the future. Because as we now know, it's not a weight issue, it's the right angle at the wrong time issue. It's typically when my hips start to curl under me and my back is no longer supporting, and it's a very subtle angle that it's hard to feel. And it's when I get to the point of the deadlift where it's no longer pulling down, right? I start to hitch and my hips curl under me, and it creates a crunching motion, and it hits a nerve just right, and it wrecks me.
Are you got plan to hitch in this OSG, or are you gonna try to avoid and really squeeze the glutes?
I've been working on the hitch for when I need it, and really getting myself into a position to set my posture. So basically, once I get it to my knees, setting my back and then ramping versus just trying to do it all at once. So hitching in a safe position per se, safer. But the plan is going into this pulling, taking my time and just chipping away rep by rep as safe as possible to not ruin the rest of my show and get as many points as possible. Now, depending on where I'm sitting at in points in that event, that's going to depend on how much I hit the gas pedal. I'm an explosive individual, and I need to move that bar explosively to get it off the ground. That's just how I am. So it's going to be kind of like an in the moment decision of how that event goes, and obviously not sacrificing the rest of the contest, because my day 3 is yoke, circus dumbbell, and stones, and those are 3 events that I'm the best in the world at circus dumbbell. I was the only one to complete stones last year, and I can carry anything. So setting myself up for a really good day 3 is the goal.
Awesome.
And recently, go ahead.
I was gonna say really quickly, I was doing some math on our dumbbells, because of course I recently hit the dumbbell. I think you beat me by a few percent. I think I had to go for a 300-pound dumbbell to be equivalent.
I think you should go for a 300-pound dumbbell.
We'll see. All these records are fun, but we gotta focus. I always get a little like nicked up when I do a record, but less about me. You were saying?
And then after that, I went on the road with Nitro Circus we did an off-road border to border run from Canada to Mexico. And it was an event with Nitro Circus and Hubert, who, if you've followed action sports at all, he's known as everyone's favorite redneck. He races side-by-sides, he's done motocross, all that stuff. And he actually builds all the tracks and the ramps for Travis Pastrana over Pastrana Land and various other action sports athletes. He's a dirt god when it comes to trajectory. And then,
I'll just say really quickly, one of the questions when you're on this big trip, how are you managing your nutrition and your training?
That was the tricky part, right? So Street Bike Tommy started us off. Him and Hubert started off on the Canadian border in, it was Wyoming or Montana or something. And then Tommy had to bounce out he's the MC for Nitro Rallycross. And then I was the relief pitcher halfway, and then it was me and Hubert all the way down to Mexico. So I had about a week in Utah, and there wasn't really any strongman gyms. But at that point, this is before we hit that 4-week mark where I peak. And we had the intents of doing a back rehab week at some point before I peak, just to make sure my back's healthy, make sure it's good, get it feeling everything a-okay before we hit peak hard and hit contest weights and really run it into the ground. So that's what we did, and it was a lot of just barbell movements and assistance movements, just really bulletproofing the back and making sure it was happy, especially sitting in that side by side all day. And we're talking like we're hitting 200-mile days, all off road, and it takes, we'd be taking off at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and some days getting done at like 11 p.m. Rolling into the trailer. And then as far as nutrition goes, my nutritionist wasn't worried. I spent a lot of time eating potato bread, honey, and peanut butter on the go. And then in the mornings is when I would really get a big meal in. So I'd get 1,000+ calorie meal there. And then in the evenings, I get 1,000+ calorie to keep my calories up. But the main focus was just high protein, because it wasn't a long enough period that it would throw off my physique, my condition, as long as I was hitting my protein for the recovery. So another shameless plug, Battle Bars, they were a big instrumentation with keeping that protein up, snack on the go. It's a veteran owned and operated protein bar company, and I was eating those like candy. About every hour I was smashing, 2 peanut butter and honey sandwiches, beef jerky, and a Battle Bar, and I was getting probably around a few hundred calories in that alone per. So a little higher fat than I normally run, but it's okay because once we hit Arizona, we were just baking in the sun all day long. And
you look nice and tan.
There was, yeah, a little bit, except for my legs because I was in pants. And then, but basically, yeah. So that was kind of the strategy, was just getting a high volume of protein in during that duration and getting big meals in where I could. But it was a rad time, epic scenery, once in a lifetime stuff. They did coast to coast last year or 2 years ago, and then this year was border to border. And to see the terrain change from northern Utah down to the Mexican border was fantastic. We had some hiccups. I smoked. I caught a flat, caught a flat going into a turn, and clipped the berm, came out of the berm, shot across the trail, and hit probably the only stump within 100 yards. Split the rim because the tire was flat, bent the upper and lower arm, a ball joint. So the next day, put us a day behind because we had to tear it down and rebuild a little bit of the machine. But we picked up the pace and made up the time. And once we got into Arizona, it was a lot more wide open once we came down through Sedona because it was Sonoran Desert territory. And it was pretty neat because there was all these signs once we hit the Sonoran Desert about drug smuggling routes. And so like it was kind of a little sketchy. We didn't want to sit in one place too long, and seeing all the Border Patrol presents, you're like, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore.
We need you in one piece at the big show. So it's glad you're one piece.
But once I got into Northern Phoenix, there's a Strongman gym in Flagstaff, which I was driving 30 minutes to, and Hubert was great. He understood what I do. So he was making sure I got to those Strongman gyms once we got out of Utah. And then we were in Cottonwood. So I was driving to Flagstaff from there. We put my motorcycle on the trailer, and I would just commute on that to and from. And then we were in the Phoenix area about a week. We had a couple of sponsors that have their headquarters there in Phoenix, like Shock Therapy and stuff. So I was training out of my home gym for the second half of it. So it really didn't mess things up training wise. I didn't miss a single training day. Everything went according to plan. I was hitting comp weights. And right now it's just main focus is dialing back in that nutrition and just stay the course and ramping up toward and finishing off with a really strong peak. And then it's all she wrote.
Perfect. Very busy 2022. Very similar because I also hurt my back. But Ricky, fill us in. What's been going on?
Oh, so like ever since OSG last year?
Give us a little synopsis. How's life?
All right. So definitely I was still in bioengineering graduate school over at UCR, and finishing up my master's. It was fun. It was fun times. still trying to apply to medical schools at the time, so I was doing a lot of volunteering at Riverside Community Hospital, doing helping out my family with the family restaurant, stuff like that.
What do you guys what do you guys serve?
Authentic Mexican and seafood.
Ooh, oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah. It's authentic as it gets. I mean, Marina Valley or in that area, I don't know how you guys are familiar with SoCal, but like probably the best menudo and handmade tortilla, flour tortillas you're gonna get around that area. So
Oh,
shameless plug in that, I guess.
Let's go.
But yeah. Other than that, I was doing the school. I was like, all right, hey, I won 2021 OSG. Kind of want to ramp it up. So I decided like, hey, I need to get a coach and just ask around like Mock, yeah, Andrew Mock, you guys familiar with Eric King. They asked Bromley about it too. And they're like, yeah, just look into like the a thing that I got most of the name that came up a lot was Tyler Young. So we ended up talking, and he onboarded me, everything. I liked everything about it, and then it all sounded good. So plan was 3 competitions this year: California Strongest, Clash, of
Joe.
course, and OSG. So all this is happening. End up finishing my master's in June. I get a late admit to this school, medical school in Clovis, California. I mean, I'm talking about like I got admitted probably 2 minutes. I mean, not 2 minutes, but it felt like 2 minutes. 2 weeks before school started, and it was about 5 hour drive from my house, from my hometown, from where I live. And they're like, yeah, figure it out. Get your apartment wherever you're gonna live. Situation, all that handled. Oh, by the way, you got to pay for tuition and everything, all that. Like right now in 2 weeks, you're like, oh, okay, just like drop my stuff and just go. Um, but that happened in June and all that too. But rewind a little bit. Um, California Strongest competed. You guys probably might know him, Mike Gonzalez. He
Absolutely.
competed with yeah.
Mhm.
So I thought I was just about to ball out and just made mistakes here and there, and then things happened. I lost by half a point. So is what it is. I learn from it, take away from it. There's a lot of just things like okay, got to do better, got to be more equipment. Equipment is so important
Hey,
because
so
we were on.
was that contest number 4 for you? Because I know you've had a few on your hands, and of course winning the big show on your third one.
Yeah. That was the fourth. Just I mean the biggest issue. It was supposed to be like a truck pool, and we were gonna do a military truck. Um, Things, oh, strongman. There's always equipment failure. Something happens. So they ended up just putting a U-Haul and then tying one of the tires in the back. I don't know. I think it was like a 600, 800 pound tire, and it just drags in the back. And I just didn't have the right shoes for the grip. It was on the asphalt, like right in front of the beach. And I just slip up. I'm just like, I'm getting no traction. And then that cost me big points and just half a point at the end of the day. So equipment, that one taught me equipment. It all matters. Every detail like that matters. Going into Clash, I was overall I was confident. Only thing that I was worried about is the pace
Mm.
and the sandbag toss, which did end up killing me a lot. Um, Elevation, all that. It was kind of hard because this was actually like the time I was actually starting. I think this was like my first month of medical school I'm in, and I actually had to get excused absence from one of our finals that we were taking to go to Clash, and they were a bit, obviously they're a bit apprehensive about it. Like, no, hey, look, medical school is like a serious thing. You can't just be missing stuff like this.
Did you
Like,
tell
look,
them that you're number 1, that you can't be there?
I had to like, yeah, I had to get like pretty much a letter of recommendation from like Andrew Mock and like, fellow doctor.
Nice.
He's like, hey, he needs this. Like, this is what makes him who he is. That's why he got into med school in the first place. Like, you guys got to support this. And, back and forth, a little bit emails, exchanges going here and there. And finally they kind of, all right, we'll let it happen. And then go out. And yeah, I mean, training was, like I said, sandbag toss. I was just like, that's gonna do me in. And then
Luke Stoneman agrees with me. All throwing events should just go away for a bit. They're just
I mean,
I'm sick
it
of them.
happening at OSG, right? I mean, there's no
yeah.
when
That
they
was
announced the events.
I saw that. It made me very happy. I'll say that.
Yeah, yeah. And then I mean, a cat's out of the bag. I'm very susceptible to cramping. Um, just an issue that I have. And by the time I got to the stones, I also didn't realize how well of a bloat I was gonna have, a water bloat. And my typical compression shorts that I were wearing were much tighter than expected. I was only wearing them for like 5 minutes, but then like by the time I'm getting called up to go to do stones, I'm already feeling like little twitches. I'm like, oh crap, am I gonna just like?
Was it a big cut? Were you doing 20, 30 pounds or?
No, I that's the thing. I don't do heavy cuts. Like right now, I
Okay.
sit at OSG last year. I didn't cut at all. I was 176.
Wow.
Clash, I did a water cut, 4 pounds. I was 180. Like right now, I'm 180. And so it's just something that, like I said, I've always been prone to cramping. Like growing up, sports wise, football wise, it's like track and field. Like after a certain amount of time, a certain amount of hours, it just happens. It doesn't matter what treatment I've tried. I mean, I'm pretty sure Denver, Colorado, the elevation and all that also has something to do with it. I mean, when they,
you ever take salt before you work out? Like put salt in your
I
pre-workout mix?
Yeah, I was doing like the liquid IVs. I was like pounding salts, like I was consuming like the sodium tablets beforehand. I've done it all, the entire spectrum of like everything. It's just one of those. It's the kryptonite, dude. Unfortunately, what it is, it's just like I just got to work with it. I mean, it's
Probably will get better over time. But if there's anybody in the comments that have any suggestions, please write them down for Mr. Ricky, and
I'm definitely he's
Yeah.
doing stuff with biology. I'm not even gonna say
yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
Like
I'm over here thinking like, man, okay, just trying to do it like I guess like in a protocol, like step-by-step process of like, okay, I've tried this method, doesn't work. This method doesn't work. This method doesn't work. There's a basketball player that plays for Duke. People have told me about him. He like takes like an oxygen-rich like electrolyte drink. So I'm trying to get my hands on that because that dude, like, he's susceptible to cramping as well.
what does
So
Tyler Young say?
I don't think Tyler knew about it. I kind of didn't bring it up to him. He wasn't like I mean, I didn't tell him about my diet protocol, my nutrition or anything like that. And then come game day, I mean, the plan was like the axle press, kind of just like everything was tactical. Like I did just enough to get the record, and I was okay with the tie. Like, hey, we're not here for records, we're here for the title. So I was just like doing the bare minimum because it's just a fast-paced show. You want to reserve your energy, all that kind of stuff, and then kind of make it through up to the end. And then come the stones, I just look at them. I'm just like, dang, here it is, dog. I'm sorry, I was gonna let you down. And I was just like, maybe I'll just muscle it through, dude. And then I load up that first stone, and I'm kid you not, like entire just lower half just locked up. The guy that caught me, he was just like, "Are you cramping?" I'm like, "Yeah, just put me down." Like it's, and then I was just seized up for like a good half hour. They hooked me up. They gave me the liquid. They gave me IVs. They do the O2 set. I'm like super hypoxia. I'm like 90% O2. Everything's like, yeah, buddy, it's not looking too good. And I was just like, yeah, I'm
What's
used
like
to
the
it.
normal range? Is there
98,
okay.
98 and above, 98% above.
yeah, I was about to say nothing less than 98.
So I was really bad. Yeah.
I know that from heart issues that I've had. So
Oh wow. Okay. Have you? I kind of want to get into that, but if you don't mind, like, have you always had
go
those heart
ahead,
issues?
finish what you got. We'll get into that later.
But yeah. Other than that, I just been ever since med school. That's just been my life. Med school, train here and there, and training as much as I can, and doing what I can in between. But med school is like my life. Like people weren't lying when like the amount of information that's coming in, and you're just like expected to just like absorb it is wild. I mean, I don't know like the analogies people tell y'all, but it's like eating 10 pancakes a day. You eat 10 pancakes a day, it's kind of like kind of hard for some people, but think about it, you're eating 10 pancakes a day, you eat another 10 pancakes another day, it just keeps coming at you. And if like you like, hey, I'll just eat 8 pancakes today, and those 2 pancakes are going to stack up to the next ones, and then your next thing you know, you're just getting overwhelmed and burnout happens. I mean, the other analogy is like trying to drink water from a fire hydrant through a straw. So very, very accurate of like amount of information that's coming at you. So
with med school and OSG, you're really pushing the bounds of what they call a student athlete. So of course,
oh yeah.
kudos to you. But it
So,
sounds like Ricky did it doing his homework. He didn't listen to the Nikolai Myers former podcast that we had in the single digits. I forget what number. I think that might have been 5 or 6 or 7. But of course, Nikolai was one of our first guests. But of course, thank you, Richard, for of course getting us up to speed on everything. So let's talk a little bit about the events. So 7 events this year. It's a little different than last year. We had 6 events. So this year we're gonna have 2, 2, and 3. So 3 on the finals day. So what do you guys think about this year events and how they kind of line up towards your strengths and weaknesses?
I love them.
same. I'm really about to have some fun with these events.
I would say
So
they're mostly they're pretty straightforward. Of course, sandbag to shoulder is probably only the new one. I know it's been a real popular event this year, so a lot of guys have been able to get of course, their hands on it. But I did like the nice touch of adding a pressing event and having it on the finals day. So I think Lynn was thinking about it in the past, but of course, you kind of pulled the trigger. But I almost thought that dumbbell ladder for most of the weight classes was pretty light. I'm not sure what you think,
yeah.
Nikolai. Of course, you have
Agreed.
a world record and all.
Yeah, I think we could have pushed that ladder a little bit. Maybe started 20 pounds heavier, finished 20 pounds later. I think most guys in the 90 kilo are capable of a 200-pound dumbbell. I wish it would, like, I wish they'd had the same approach that they've had in the deadlift ladder in the past, where you only get 5 guys or so finishing all of them, and it
Mhm.
kind of creates that point separation, right? Um, I think it could have been a little bit heavier, and I'm not just saying that as a world record holder. I mean, a 200-pound dumbbell at that level, I think most guys should be able to do. I mean, it's a body weight dumbbell. I think anyone should be able to do a body weight dumbbell when it comes to a weight class division. Um, so I know it's going to sound kind of rough coming from the person who holds the record, but I would have liked to seen a little bit heavier. I'm kind of looking at it as like, okay, it's yoke, dumbbell, stones. That kind of gives me a break between yoke and stones. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if he was pushing for speed, but I also agree with you. I think they could have been 20 pounds heavier, like a 240 dumbbell at the end would have been pretty cool.
yeah,
But we'll probably have the rules of thirds. Of course, 1/3 finish, 1/3 kind of doesn't finish, 1/3 finishes, and
mhm,
1/3 kind of kills it. So it's probably going to
yes.
be a mixture in between. Ben Joyce, he's a guy that works for OSG. He was asking, would you guys swap out any of the current events? And if so, what would you swap out?
Go ahead, Ricky.
Mm, I mean, honestly, I'm happy with everything. Like we said, as long as there's no tosses, any sandbag, anything throwing overhead, I'm happy. I'm happy with everything. I mean, I guess maybe bring back the deadlift ladder, but I already know it's done. It's kind of been like they kind of want to rotate things and all that. So the axle bar is a nice little switch up, and I understand that.
They'll have the big tires on there, so it'll be spectacle. It'll be
Yeah,
pretty cool. So
yeah.
for everybody to enjoy. Anything that you would change, Nikolai, before we move on?
Um, I agree with Ricky. I like the lineup. Gun to my head, if I was being told you have to change one, um, I guess right now with the back the way it is, I would say deadlift. Just because the axle, you get that extra inch. The bar gets an extra inch of leverage because of the diameter. Um, so I would say like maybe deadlift medley or something along those lines. But otherwise, um, I'm not really stressing about it. The only real variable in this contest, because what you're going to get with everything, is the Viking press, and that's just because of the pivot point in your leverages. I had a phone call about Lynn trying to calculate what I was doing with mine because I'm not a numbers guy, so I was just trying to create it as close as possible, as hard as possible, and I've been training it with my pivot point higher than me, so I'm pressing into and slightly above neutral versus at neutral where it gets easier once you go past neutral because of that same tire flip car deadlift axis. So I've just been trying to make it harder, but everything else, we know what sandbags feel like. We know what the stones feel like. They're wheel development stones. They're fucking amazing.
Mhm.
And the car yoke, you know what to expect with that. We all did it last year. And we all know what an axle feels like. So, and circus dumbbells. So it's, there's not really any variables as outside of what leverage is going to be like on that Viking press, because Lynn, I think, redesigned it.
So it's going to be pretty straightforward. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting. Of course, I'll spoil one of the fan questions. Tyler Davis asked if you're going to shave your chest prior to your stone load this year, Nikolai.
I don't know. I kind of like everyone. Well, I went second to last, and it didn't really matter because no one got that last stone anyway. So they can complain all they want, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter. So I'll probably trim it a little bit just to, be a little more courteous to my fellow competitors.
Feel like
to deal.
maybe a circle on the chest, and then that covered. That's what got red.
Yeah,
I'll just do a stripe. I'll call it my stone landing strip.
Yeah,
that'll be a first.
just like make a symbol, make maybe even the Superman symbol, and just have it rip off, and then there you go. You have your symbol on there.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so of course this year OSG there's a little more competitors per class. So
Ooh, yeah.
we all talked about prior. We're gonna give you guys a little preview on our weight class. Give some props to some guys that we're expecting to do really well. Who's gonna, of course, push us for that title defense. But in terms of preview, so we'll start with the 105 kilo class. So for my class, I think it's pretty stacked, and of course a little busier than some of the other classes in the past. 12 countries represented, 48 competitors as of right now. Things change all the time. Last year we had 10 guys drop out, so I imagine probably around game time there'll probably be about 40 competitors on game day. Comparing in terms of other federations, there are also some other champions from like SEL and like Ultimate. So of course someone that I have my eyes on this year is kind of the return of Andrew Clayton to the 105 kilo scene. So he was the OSG champion back in 2017. Personally, in terms of my record against Clayton, I'm 0-3. I've never beaten Andrew Clayton. So it's also been 5 years since I competed against him. So I'm a different Camby from when I first was competing against him. So I'm pretty excited to see how I stack up against him now. Miko Anila, he's the SEL 2021 champ. So he ended up getting, I think, 9th last year, but he is I think he was a little banged up. I think he had a hurt bicep, so he didn't really give it all. So maybe a healthy Miko might really push for the potential top 5 or podium. This year, Cattle Czech out of the Czech Republic. He was the Ultimate world champion back in 2018. Another talented guy. I've competed against him 4 times. Either in the US or internationally since 2014. So of course Yuri's a good buddy of mine, but a healthy Yuri is also a very strong Yuri. We have Marcin Senwicki. He was a former champ in 2016. So he was the official strongman at the time. It was official strongman Giants Live, and we had that in Belfast. So that's the year he won. But he also took second back to Ben Kelsey back in 2013. So he's a very steady competitor. But I think he might not be coming because he just got a kidney. So he was on the kidney transplant list in Poland. So he recently just got a kidney. So I don't think he wants to ruin that just yet. So I think he's skipping this one this year. But but also talking about outside of just kind of former champions, the 3, 4, and 5 are back from this year. So that's Justin Loy, of course. Justin was a little banged up earlier, but he right now been able to put a good package together. And of course he was a podium finisher behind Chad and I. You have McKeegan. Has been having a great year, great puller. So I know he really wants this title. He says the events are pretty good for him. So McKeegan's going to put a good run. Hind took 5th right behind McKeegan, and he's a solid competitor. But I believe the 6th, I think everybody in the finals from last year is coming except for Chad Currian. So we have 1 through 10 all coming. So like Steve, I think there's Stephen Bradley, Jake O'Hare, one of the gentlemen from Zambia. You also have someone like Dan Hughes, who took 3rd at Clash, will be in the mix. And also probably the last one to probably want to mention, my boy Mike O'Connor. Of course, my training partner. I always have high expectations. I'll make sure he's ready for the show.
World's sexiest strongman.
Yeah, he's very ripped. All that cardio, all that CrossFit he loves to do.
He's a good looking dude.
And then there's two Ukrainians, and of course the Ukrainians are always pretty tough nowadays. Yuri and Vitaly. I think one of them won the Ultimate 105 world title last year, but I'm not quite sure. I got to find that list. But that is my preview for the 105 kilo class. Of course, hopefully I didn't hurt too many feelings or not mentioned, but I of course look forward to competing against all of you. So yeah, who wants to take it next in terms of their weight class preview?
Well, I'm not very good at who's who, and as you all know, you might see someone on there you don't recognize. I mean, Ricky is a prime example of some dude walks into a show and just completely wrecks shit, and comes out of nowhere. So that happens. So anything's possible. With that being said, I know Nick O'Hare is going to be a contender. You're going to have Narimu's coming back. I'm excited to see him. He's a good friend of mine as well. Tyler Davis
Yes, sir.
is yeah. So you have
Just
two
won the
guys
Ultimate
that were on
Champion.
podium. Yeah, he just congratulations to him. He just did very well at that show. Two out of the three podium finishers minus CJ. CJ's getting married, so congratulations, CJ. But he will not be there. But you have Nick O'Hare, Tyler Davis, Narimu. Aaron Foundry's making a comeback. He just had hip replacement surgery done.
Double hip, right?
Yeah. And you're talking about probably one of the best pullers in the 90 kilo ever. He's up there. 800 plus pound puller. I mean, when he's healthy, he's loading 400 plus pound stones like it's his job. So I know he's going to come and give it what he's got. I know he's a bit limited, and I could be wrong here, but I know he mentioned this may be one of his last shows, and he's just trying to go out competing. So I'm going to be rooting for him just as a friend as well. And he's always a huge a face I look forward to seeing. I don't remember if I saw Keith Cherry's name on there or not.
I was looking at it earlier too, and I can kind of give it a quick glance, but I did not see Keith at first glance.
Okay. But yeah, there's the 90 class is stacked from the guys I know of. Like I said, I'm not a good who is who guy. Like I know the people I know because I've met them and things like that. But I'm excited for this lineup. It's going to be. I expect there to be really good and Narimu and I share the same coach and nutritionist. So Max, our coach, creates winners. And Narimu is a game day dude. When he's on it, he doesn't really have a weakness. He's very consistent. He was the 2019 champion because there was no 2020, and had an excellent performance. Nick O'Hare, another game day dude that doesn't really make mistakes. So
he's going to be coming hard. I think, of course, he was very close between the two guys, so he got a taste of it.
I hope so, and I expect nothing less. But I plan on doing my job. I plan on hoisting that pirate flag at the end of the day, and
then
earning my spot again.
There's a third former champion. You have Dev Reese coming back too. So that's three. You have
okay. I wasn't sure if he was coming back because I saw something he had posted following Clash.
Ooh, yeah. He's listed on there. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I know something about, he wanted to take some time away, the fire, doing the sport he loves until he's ready to come back. I don't know. I hope he's there. He's another dude that's fun to compete with, game day guy. And he won 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So it's the 90 kilo. You kind of have the same, I think Leroy Smith is coming back. He plays 5th or 6th. I can't remember if John K. He's
the guy from Uruguay.
South American dude, right?
Yeah, he's the one that I was looking at because I thought he was gonna bump up to 231 for how big he was, but he looks like he signed up for 90 kilo. Yeah, he is big. So I think Clayton is his coach, so I probably expect big things from John.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart of a human. Like we shared the same space in between events, and that was my first time meeting him, and became quick friends after that. And pleasure, and I really do hope he's there.
Oh yeah, we were all kind of all close together at the end.
Yeah,
Next to Mr. Wesley Claiborne.
yeah.
But Richard, give us your preview.
Alright.
Give us your thoughts, any props, any trash talk you want to put out there.
All right. Well, I mean, obviously the guy that just won Clash came out of nowhere. Ben
Doonan,
Donen.
Donnan.
I mean, I don't know exactly how do you say it, but Donen. I mean, that dude, you just, I mean, 2021 OSG, he doesn't make top 10. And you're like, okay, you kind of brush it off. But like throughout the, you know, prep and all that coming up, he pulls 750 deadlift for like a 1.5 rep, 1.5 reps. You're like, oh shoot, okay, he's actually dangerous. And then, I mean, if you guys were there like for the water cut that he had to do, I mean, the dude was, I don't know how much I should be talking about, but he wasn't gonna make weight. I mean, by the time the rules meeting at 5 o'clock, they're like, okay, he barely makes weight. I'm like, oh, this dude's just gonna have a rough time. I mean, he balled out come game day at Clash, and I mean, just edged me out. Like I said, tied for the world record on the axle. I honestly thought I smoked the load medley, and he beats me out by I think 7/10 of a second.
Wow.
Um, he just did everything right, and he came to play that day, and just yeah, like I said, he had a ball out. So I mean, he's obviously dangerous. He's obviously um gonna be somebody to watch out for. Um, and like I said, I don't see there's any weaknesses, but he's very much an explosive kind of guy. So we'll
I
see
gotta
his
take a
speed
leak. I'll be right back.
all good. Um, Obviously another guy that was there is obviously Tommy. I have to give props to Tommy. Tommy always like he just shows up and he just competes and he does his thing. Very technical, very efficient, finding movements with he's very well connected with his body and how he approaches events.
Stupid athletic. That's with Tommy.
Yeah.
He just jumps like I can't. I wish I could jump like Tommy, but
Just like I mean, he just like for the sandbag toss, max height doesn't hop in until like I think 18 feet, just launches it clear over. And he could have gone way more. Like he was like, oh, I'm good for 23 if they could do it, but I guess like the apparatus was only able to go as high as 19 or 20. So he just and yeah, he takes that over. And then I've yet to see him in person. He talks big game about being a fast farmers carry guy. So we'll see what happens. I know 2019, I believe he won it, and now 2022 they're bringing it back.
yeah,
So
he is pretty fast. I gave him some farmers tips when I had my seminar over at Tommy's. So
right.
we did some workouts. I might give him some tips. So might make your day a little harder.
I'm all about it, man. I mean, farmers carry is something I love to do too. So like I've had a couple hiccups here and there, but I'm a mover. I'll say that. So I'm expecting Tommy to show up. Um, Everything looks good for him. Another guy that I have yet to see compete is Nico Gagnon.
Mm. Yeah,
So
he's been around for years. Even I think as far back I see him like the 175 class at nationals or the Arnold amateur since like 2016. So he's been around for a while. Like just like Richie Lights Out Stout, he's been.
that was another guy I was gonna mention. Yep. But I've been told he's very in person kind of his personality is like very stoic. So interested to see what that's all about. But strength wise, he's great deadlifter, great presser, everything all around. He's probably going to be definitely somebody to watch out for. I know he's been dealing with injuries here and there, but we'll see. I think like yeah, come this year he's ready to compete and ready to show out. Um, since you already mentioned it, Richie Lights Out Stout, he's always been there. He's always been in the mix. He's like I've never placed lower than fourth at like the big national and like international competitions. So I'm expecting something big out of him. I think he just what was it? He won one of the World Strongman titles or something like that. I think it was for USS or something. Not
I'm pretty sure
exactly
he's won
accurate.
the Arnold amateur on the main stage one year.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's
Yeah,
been around with his black and white shorts.
yeah,
He's kind of a
iconic. Yep. And
Mhm.
like I don't know if he still does it, but his little yeah.
So we'll see what
Um,
he brings this year.
yeah, definitely expecting that out of him. see another guy that I'm really looking forward to compete with. Unfortunately, I still think he will be sorely missed. He's not competing. Is Andrew Hanus,
Oh, really?
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
It's like the happiest dude ever.
oh my gosh,
It's like a puppy
just
dog.
just always like smiling, always having a good time, always just like very supportive of one of the other dudes. Like, I mean, dude, just ball of energy, ball of happiness, always be fun to have around, kind of thing. Just so he'll be sorely missed. People that Robert Hughes is like he came up like he's always been in the mix, kind of thing. But like Clash, he kind of ends up taking second place,
Yeah.
and so he's training with sorry, Alex Jose. So he's definitely absorbing a lot because his training videos are looking pretty nice. And
Yes,
then
he's someone very motivated. We had him on ooh,
yeah, right.
yes,
The
6, 7
Clash.
episodes, and yeah, OSG has always been kind of one of those shows that he looks forward to. So putting most of his marbles into that basket. So I think he's gonna be putting on a pretty good package.
Another dude sorely missed, Carl Sherry. I've so just been told that he's like got sneaking cannons for shoulders. But other than that, I mean, there's also all kinds of crazy guys like CJ Kraus. He's probably gonna smoke the axle.
Did you
American
say that the
deadlift.
Daglish twins? The Daglish twins are
I
fun,
think
right?
one of them is only doing it, right? As far as I'm
Oh,
aware,
really?
are they
I,
both
I
doing
saw
it?
I saw one Daglish in there. I think that's
Joe. They're always in the mix, so they're always somebody I mean,
well,
I don't know about
you think
this.
they're gonna pull a fast one? They're gonna be like Joe does the first 3 events, and then Tim hops in, and then Joe comes back in. So, but what if they pull a fast one, Nikolai? Maybe we should like mark them before they start. So,
So they're not
Yeah,
swapping out,
yeah,
staying fresh.
because they
yeah,
are difficult to decipher.
right. Distinguish, yeah. I mean, honestly, this class just keeps on getting more deep and more stacked every year. Just like there's more and more people just coming out of the just the deep, and you're just like, what the heck? So, I'm honestly like, I'm ready for everything. I'm anticipating for like some unknown to happen again.
Another Ricky.
Um, another Donan at Clash. Like, yeah. So it's definitely like, yeah, I'm not taking any chances. Like every one of these events, it's like I'm going as hard as I possibly can, and like there's, I don't want to say there's almost no strategy to it, but like, it's probably full send. But it's still got to tell. Yeah, Tyler and I we're still talking about that.
You gotta build that urgency. It's
Yeah.
has to be there. Um, so I have, of course, a couple questions, and then we'll do some rapid fire fan questions. But what did winning official strongman games last year, World Strongest Man title, mean to you? So
Go ahead, Ricky.
yeah, go.
I mean, unreal. I was not expecting to win the title at all. I was just like, dude, man, wouldn't it be great if I just like made it to the third day? And that was like my mentality going into OSG, like, all right, just make it to the third day and just have fun. Um, I mean, to this day, it's like, man, I'm real strongest man under 80. Like, I'm a bad mother. Like, it's just like it blows my mind, dude. It's just like it's not something, you know, 5, 10 years ago, like, oh, like you're gonna be real strongest man. I did not expect that at all. So like every time it just reminds myself like you just accomplished like probably like one of the greatest life achievements you will ever have. And it's like I said, every day it's always unreal. I mean, surreal. And it's like that, it's like a newfound like motivator, like, dang, if I did that, man, I can do anything. Like shoot, like so like any challenge that I face, it's like, man, you real strongest man, you could do this. Like brush it off your shoulder, go to work. So I think like winning World's Strongest Man has definitely lit a fire in me. Like that mentality is just like you really can accomplish anything. So
Awesome
that's
answer.
where, yeah.
How about you, Nikolai?
I mean, it was huge. Like Ricky said, it's I mean, a lot of guys work hard to even get to that level, and then to actually be the best at that level, it's uh It's super gratifying, outside of any sort of, I mean, we haven't even been doing this for prize money for that long. So that tells you everything you need to know. We've been paying out of pocket to do this for decades. Um, my previous go at 2020, it almost killed me, literally. Um, 2 to 3 weeks out, my heart went into supraventricular tachycardia. Wasn't training. I was cooking rice, and I went about my day feeling super anxious. Didn't know why. I'm not an anxious human. Um, and luckily, we had a nurse practitioner at the gym, and she took my pulse. She's like, "You're somewhere between 150 and 180 beats irregular with some sort of arrhythmia. You need to get to the hospital now." Started losing motor skill function. Started to, I was declining cognitively, very rapidly. Got rushed to the hospital. You could have held a gun to my head and told me to count to three, and I probably would have told you who was president. I don't know. Got to the hospital, and now I'm a VA patient, and I've been there for broken bones, eye injuries, hearing loss, you name it. I've been to the VA for it as far as being hurt. Not even related to Strongman. But it was the first time I ever saw them running and coming to get me. And I was just there enough to go, uh-oh. I'm in trouble because they don't do that. And they took me in to get an x-ray, MRI. Then I popped out. I went back into sinus rhythm. And for those of you listening, that's normal. They then kept me there. My oxygen was down at about 96%. And I was throwing PVCs and in and out of AFib and SVT for the entire week I was in the ICU. And beavers going off all the time. And my case got seen by the head of electrophysiology at University of Maryland. I was in Maryland at the time. And they were stumped. They basically told me if they released me and I dropped dead in the parking lot, they wouldn't have an answer. So I stabilized. They released me. OSGs in 2 weeks. I go compete. Like a idiot. I wasn't even cleared from cardiology in my appointments. I literally missed an appointment to go compete, and I noticed right away my horsepower was just tanked. I barely pulled 635 in the medley, and anything static, I was just very depleted on static strength. I actually won the farmer's carry that year, and I competed in AFib for 3 days, or it might have been SVT. I'm not sure, but it was. I know it now because it takes my breath away, and it's been something that will sporadically happen, randomly, and not always when I'm doing exercise. I figured out ways to get myself out of it by either bracing, carotid massage, and a lot of times the surefire way is when I feel it happen, I'll go outside and do sprints to basically bring one part of my heart up to speed to match my other, and then it resets. And it's been getting less and less. I notice when my sleep's on point, my nutrition's on point, and it's typically okay. But I kept having bouts about it, and I noticed a correlation about a month ago, and I had just drank water. Well, it was cold water, and 2 days in a row, I went into SVT, and it was for about 2 hours, and I hadn't had anything extended. It'll be kind of in and out for like 30 seconds. And so I went to the hospital because I was starting to get weird. And come to find out, there was research done on triathletes that were going into AFib while they were running. And the trigger was the water stations, that cold water. Because the esophagus goes right behind the heart. It can create a vagal response and trigger that arrhythmia. So that seems to be, I always thought it was when my sleep was iffy. So coming back from, I didn't know how close to dropping dead I was until I had gotten all the details. And to come back and then win the following year for a sport that I was like, am I going to be able to do this anymore? Was monumental for me mentally. And it's not something I really talked about too much publicly, just because not because I don't think people should be aware, just who cares? That's how I see it, is everyone's got their shit. Who cares? So I didn't really say much about it. And that year I placed fifth. So I personally had a good performance I had no complaints other than I probably shouldn't have done it at all. And still my worst placing's fifth. My first year I missed podium by point. So to come back in third time around and really win it with what felt like a huge comeback for me that year. I'd gotten hit by a car on my motorcycle. They didn't yield in a roundabout and just smacked me. I then broke my foot training during COVID. I went to the farm and was rigging up stuff. I was carrying stumps. I was pulling hay wagons, and I rigged up like a seated like lat pull down with this frame piece we used after we would slaughter pigs. We'd hang them and get the hair off the carcass. Well, it tipped, the ground was soft, and it came down on my foot, and I broke the first tarsal about midway back. And then that set me back. So then I'd gotten COVID twice. So to come back from all that and then win was monumental for me mentally. And I went from feeling like, well, I need to find something else to do, to like kind of felt like a little unstoppable in a way. Not bulletproof body wise, but mental resiliency. It kind of gave me, it added to my story. It, instead of just being, as you guys, I'm sure have all heard it at some point, people just assume you're a freak, you're gifted, you're whatever. It doesn't matter. When you break a bone, when your body decides to quit, literally like a heart issue, it doesn't matter how gifted, how talented, whatever, the playing field is leveled. And it comes down to character, resiliency. And I felt like no one could take all that away from me. And then leading up to that, saying, oh, you're just a freak, you're an outlier. No, I outworked you. Like, that's what it comes down to. The guys that win, it's a culmination of things. It's discipline. I use daily affirmations. I repeat things almost to a psychotic level daily to get my mind in the right place, especially after being injured under lightweight. You got to be mentally present even during that lightweight.
Right.
So I learned a lot from that time about who I was in reflection, because while you're going through it, you're just like, fuck, again, like something else. So to come out on top and to come out healthy, no issues, I felt like I could have done a day 4, is a testament just to what discipline can do for an athlete. You can take the most mediocre human and you give them a work ethic, which you can't. You apply a work ethic and you apply discipline, the ceiling rises infinitely. So yeah, I felt a little bit mentally like unstoppable after that win. I was riding on cloud nine. I'm still, if I don't want to say it because I don't want to get hurt, but if I had to drop out or I come in dead last this year, I can still walk away knowing that, I went in and I've given it my all every time around. And I've done something that no one can take away from me. It is mine. That not a lot of people have gotten to accomplish. So
absolutely. What I take from that story is that you took the punches and just kept moving forward. And it sounds like there was a game of inches, but also Louis Simmons was probably looking up from heaven, kind of blessing you to see, because that's a very Louis Simmons to skip the meeting, go to the contest, no matter what. But I don't know
Yeah,
if you guys ever watch West Side versus the World, but that's a
of course.
awesome documentary.
Mhm.
Or if you ever listen to Joe Rogan's Louis Simmons podcast, that's probably the most I've ever seen like Joe Rogan laugh because of all the things that all the ridiculous things that Louis Simmons would put out. But thank you for sharing. Those are great answers. So let's of course move on to the fan questions. So we got some funny ones, obscure ones, some general ones, but we'll do a little bit of rapid fire. But what are you guys' axle numbers? Of course, I think I know Ricky's, but if you want to share, and so you too, Nikolai.
I have no idea.
You never
I don't.
maxed out.
It's been probably about 4 years, and I didn't use straps.
All right. Listen, I think they're axle overhead press.
Overhead press. Okay.
Overhead press.
I was about to ask. Yeah.
Last time I did a max axle clean and press is probably about 4 years ago. And it was like 330, 335.
Right.
So I have no idea now. My log is at that, and my axle's better. So.
And then of course, Ricky, you just hit yours, and I'll let you give the spotlight.
So what was it? 340 is the world record now for us under 80s. Honestly, I hit 350 in training. Honestly, whatever Tyler told me to hit that day, I was gonna hit it. Tyler was like, I think you're good for 360, 370. I'm like, shh, if you're gonna if you say it, dog, then let's do it. And so, I mean, in training, yeah, most I ever put in training was 350, 355. But that day, yeah.
370 will get you close to CJ's record. Have you guys ever measured your 40 time, your 40-yard dash in high school, college, any of those levels?
Nikolai, you want to go first, or?
I think I was like a 4.5, 4.4 somewhere. I was quick.
Definitely football involved in that. I got 4.3s. I was a running back, so
okay,
that's what
that's pretty fast. I was a linebacker. I think my fastest was 4.95, but I got a little faster.
That's still good. Yeah, that's still good for a lineman. I mean, for a lineman.
Don't flatter me, Ricky.
Yeah.
4.3.
yeah.
Talking nutrition. Do you guys have a set regimen? I know Nikolai was giving us a kind of a lowdown, but do you guys have a set regimen you normally follow? Like a certain diet, or what do you guys do for diets usually?
Ricky, you want to take the lead here?
My main concern is always high protein. Always high protein, and then depending on what I'm doing, I manipulate from there. Fats stay about the same, or basically carbs is what fluctuates the most. So that's why I'm like, all right, kind of like to trick the body, or not, kind of keep it on like its toes, keeping that metabolism. Like if I'm cutting for too long, then I'll go back like carb up a little bit higher for a little bit. But nutrition wise, I mean food wise, I've probably had egg whites, eggs, and oatmeal since high school. That's what my breakfast is. And snacks, it's basically the same. I say the only thing that I get flavorful with is my lunch and dinner, but everything stays the same. But it's always high protein. That's what I always go for.
Mhm.
How about you?
Yeah, same thing. I carb cycle. So I have basically 5 low days, 2 high days being the weekends. My body responds well to carbs. I don't know if it's because I'm Greek or what. But I could eat carbs all day long and nothing else, and I would be happy as hell. But yeah, basically really high protein. And then the reason we carb cycle is it keeps my metabolism up. I have a faster metabolism, so I can get away with a little bit more. Basically, my nutrition is like if you want to eat a pizza sometime during the week, eat a damn pizza. Like
Yeah.
your body composition isn't really going to suffer. But during this 4-week period before contest is when we really dial it in and we really start. We ramp up, and he kind of leaves it up to me on feel. So if I typically do a little bit of a surplus on carbs during the peak, the heavier weights, it's a little bit more brutal. The heavy frequency goes up a little bit before deload, and then I kind of gain about 2 or 3 pounds, and then the week of we dial back on the carbs, and then I pretty much I have about 6 pounds to 8 pounds, and That's when I start removing sodium, and then I lose about another 2 to 3 pounds, drink distilled water for 2 days, and I typically come in 196, 197 on the money every single time. So I sit around, anywhere between 205 and 208 any given day.
All right. Yeah. Very similar kind of water cut. And of course I have a water cutting video. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you can just go to my playlists. But that's pretty interesting. And of course, for your guys' knowledge, I'm pretty vertical diet by Stan Efforting, and of course, I enjoy my long walks. So this is probably more of a rhetorical question, but Joey, the man behind the official Strongman content, asks, "Are you guys all three keeping your titles?" And the answer is yes. So moving on.
Yeah, duh.
Of course.
So training structure for you guys, were you guys doing anything different here? Like, and of course, like for instance, for myself, I since I'm coming off of like America's Strongest Man, I was doing some OSG stuff right before America's Strongest Man, but I'm pretty much running 2 7-day training cycles. So I went pretty much going 7 days deload, 7 days deload, because I have like 5 weeks. But did you guys do anything special, or do you guys kind of do the usual 12-week prep?
Yeah, I had that back rehab for the first part of my prep coming off of Clash, and that was the focus. Then I had this whole road trip series thing I was doing with some of the Nitro Circus guys, and then but it's pretty much been sprinkling in events and focusing on back health, because we know, like, I'm familiar with the implements, being that I feel like I've done nothing but circus dumbbell for the past year. Almost. We didn't really have to focus on that too much because my threshold for weight is very high for that right now. So we were able to focus on other things. Group events I typically do well, like farmers, not an issue, but it was basically just bulletproofing the back to withstand that. So that was really the only variation. So on deadlift, the heaviest I've pulled, I'll be honest, was we've kept the brakes on that, and I pulled a smooth triple at 550. Just to kind of see where it was after the back rehab, and it felt super good. So we might do another smooth triple at comp weight, and just keeping the back safe. Honestly, that's what we did leading up to my last OSG, and I had the best deadlift medley I've had. So we know it works. We know the horsepower's there through the volume that we've done. But yeah, otherwise it's just been kind of tweaking technique and progressing, kind of a step progression. So we gain progress, we work it, we gain progress, we work it, just to stay healthy and avoid any sort of tweak or re-injury.
And peak on the right time. How about yourself?
Exactly.
How about yourself, Richard?
Honestly, Tyler's been in charge of like my entire programming. It's just like I'm the brawn, he's the brains kind of thing. Whatever he says on that programming, I do. I think we're just doing like a 7-week peak. But after Clash, it was like a week off, and then probably I forget what it's about, month and a half or so, just like kind of just like volume stuff. And then now we're dialing into like specialized just the events, running 4 or 5 day splits. So it's, I mean, during the week it's pretty much typical strength, powerlifting kind of stuff like that, and then Saturday event days. So nothing, just like I think like it's just like clear cut to the point, traditional nice solid strongman program, and like I said, everything's working out great. I mean, yoke, I think we just ran through that for like a good 2 months. So we're gonna back off of that, then move off this to something else. I think we're gonna start dialing in the farmers too now, and the stones. But yeah, let the back recover, the hips, all that. So been moving.
All right, excellent.
Other than that, yeah.
Tyler will have you ready. My buddy Nick asks, what do all three of you champions of the sport have in common? So of course we're all champions. I know me and Nikolai are both kind of Mediterranean blood. You guys have small wieners? If that would,
yes,
yeah,
small wieners are big noses.
But I mean, we can jot things down. What do you think? Maybe a love for carbs, love of all animals.
I think we're all
bragging
good
about tortillas. Of course, he has a love for carbs.
100%, dude. Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, I think we're all pretty amazing pressers. I feel like we all
World record. Oh, we all have world records.
Yes.
So
Duh.
that is
Wow.
definitely there.
There we
So,
go. If you want to be a champion, you do be a champion, then get the world record. But yeah, that's kind of good. I think technically I did that on the same day.
I think we got
Yes.
championships because we weren't focused on world records
Interesting.
initially.
Right.
But you gotta do both. I think at some point I always recommend you gotta do.
Yeah.
It's
Titles
fun.
first, and then the records,
It's
and then the
fun.
records. Yeah.
It's also so different.
Oh yeah,
training
the
for a world record.
tactician. Yeah.
Yeah.
The tactics for the
it's just
approach.
you and the weight. It's you and the whoever pressed it before, right? The
I
correct
mean,
spacing.
Nikolai, I mean, for you, like that circus dumbbell, for you to be like so in tuned, it still amazes me. Like you're able to like say that the weight, the issue they had. You're like, no, that's not right. That's not right. Like for you to be able to like feel that and be in tune with that, like you'd have had to been like sleeping with the circus dumbbell. Like that's all you're doing. Like
I mean, I was living and breathing it. Like I still have a small hematoma in my forearm. I still have a bursa on my shoulder. And I've also misloaded the dumbbell on myself countless times. So like I know what it feels like, and I know in the rack position by the way it's sitting, if it's where it needs to be, and how the dumbbell moves. And initially it was almost 30 pounds heavy. So when I picked it, I was like, that felt heavy. And then I cleaned it and I set it down. I'm like, there's no way that's nerves right now. Like I just hit a 237-pound dumbbell in warm up, and like it should only be a few pounds heavier for my opener, which would have been a new world record. And so I set it down, and like I heard someone yell like it's in your head, and then immediately I thought, I'm like, no, it's not. And then before I make an ass out of myself on television, let me clean this again and just dip with it to see what it does, and that will tell me. So that's what I did. I dipped with it and I felt it twist. I'm like, it's off on one side. Immediately knew it. And then people were looking at me funny and no one was listening. And that's when I was like, it's fucking heavy. Like that's not right. And then I got bitched at for cursing. And Camby's like, Camby tried to, huh?
You're passionate.
Yeah, Camby tried to wind me down. And I think what I said to you is I was like, look, I got the super max load, like 242 should feel like a breeze, like shrug it off, it happens. And then the rest is history. But I'm honestly, I wouldn't have had it go any other way at this point because it made for
the suspense,
a very dramatic situation, suspenseful. It was fun.
And not only did you hit the record, you broke another record after that. So really cool. This question is for Ricky. So I guess you were a powerlifter prior. What was your bench PR prior?
Are we talking comp or just like training?
Both.
I guess comp was 365. I was I competed at USAPL. Under, what was it nowadays? I think it's under 64 kilo class.
Oh wow.
I'll never be able to be in that class ever again. Yeah, it's not happening. But yeah, comp was 365. I haven't tried it since then, but I've never broken the 4-plate barrier, and it kind of irks me. But
I have total faith in you. But the follow-up question is, did it correlate to your overhead strength?
Honestly, no. I think benching and overhead shoulder, shoulder pressing movements they're totally different things. I don't think it had anything to do. My shoulder press beforehand was already great. I thought I think my bench is trash. So I would have to definitely say no. They do not correlate. There's just totally different things.
It's a big bench at U64.
Yeah, that's 140, right?
Yeah. Kilos. Yeah,
140. Not too shabby. All right, here's an interesting question. Even though hopefully we don't have to answer it, but if we couldn't win, who would they want to win? Who would you want to see win instead? So for myself, I would probably say my training partner, Mike O'Connor. So of course, Mike's been putting in the work. He's helped me so long in my journey. So of course, I want to see Mike get his. So if I couldn't win, I want to see Mike O'Connor win. But how about you guys?
Or
you can just pass.
Man,
It's me or no one.
That's the mindset I'm in right now because I'm 4 weeks out. That's the mindset that's how I operate 4 weeks out. As much as I enjoy competing, I have a fuck those guys mentality
Right,
leading up because I have to. Even though I wish I want to beat them at their best. I only wish, but if I had to, man, Nick O'Hare's old as fuck, so who knows how many more he's got left in him. Just kidding. But Narimu is also kind of my teammate. He's a teammate of mine with Depth Before Dishonor, and we as well as my coach. So, and he's got the most epic mullet right now. So I would, I would love to see him win. I would love to see Aaron Foundry win. I'd love to see Nick O'Hare win. That's hard because I've got so many friends in my weight division. Like I don't want to play favorites. And if any of those guys won, I'd be stoked. If I couldn't win for whatever reason.
All right, I like
that's
it.
hard.
Nick O'Hare because he's old as hell, old as frick.
Yeah.
How about
he's
you,
gonna
Ricky?
die soon.
I'm kind of gonna ride off of that, and kind of like the same thing with Tommy. He's just turned 40. He's over that, so kind of like he was saying. I don't know if you guys have seen his like series, but he was just like, if I win or lose last time, like I'm gonna retire. So like, kind of like right off into the sunset, get the dub, and I'd be happy for him, kind of thing.
You guys are really respecting your elders. I really. They both watch it, so please don't hurt us when you guys see us in Daytona. But of course, we're just having a little fun here.
No,
we just lost Nicholas. Yeah, I'm just. And we're back.
I don't know what happened there. But I was gonna add to it with Leroy Smith, the dude from England, motherfucker chain smokes between events. So to watch him go be a chimney and then come out and win it would be epic.
There's a few though. Then I was kind of by the door the other day, so we would smell it coming back in. And do you guys have any shoe recommendations for certain events? Like personally, I like, of course, heels. I use the Antas. I like the Zeros for moving events. But do you guys have a particular shoe that you guys recommend to strongmen for moving events or various events?
Yeah. So I'm a little bit of an outlier here because I have like a double extra wide foot. So my shoe selection is very narrow. I have a very limited selection of shoes. Anything on polished concrete floors, you want a gum rubber sole. Merrill makes a lot of really high quality stuff for less than $100. Their vapor gloves are great. The Nano X's, I know they come with a gum rubber sole, and they have less severe drop than the Metcons. I've actually been training in those recently, and I've liked them because of the toe box width specifically. Anything minimalist type shoe to allow my foot to spread and do what it needs to do. But gum rubber soles for polished concrete. You want something a little bit more hard for asphalt. And then typically anything on overhead, they have mats. So you can it's a rubber mat, so pretty much anything will work on that. But yeah.
Decision. How about yourself, Ricky?
It used to be Nobles. That's what I did at OSG, and then California's. They felt great. But ever since like the new Nanos, the Nano X2s now that they released, at training in those, like it's just everything's moving right. The support's there for them. I don't like go beyond that. I've had some people recommend Vibrams to me, and that 5-finger stuff. So I have a pair. I don't think I've gotten around to actually trying them out. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Reebok Nano X2s. So.
Now, I will say Vibram also makes soles for other shoes. They have stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like I trained a lot in New Balance Minimuses, and they have a Vibram sole. But this is my first go around with the Nano X's, and I was afraid going from a zero drop minimalist style shoe to that. They don't, and Nano X's don't have much heel
Right,
because
right,
of
right.
the heel cup they have. So I was surprised at how it wasn't a big change. Yeah.
But so the Vibrams, the regularly the toe shoes, correct?
Right, right.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
been able to wear those because I have two web toes on each foot. So
Oh, really?
I've always felt like I'm missing out, a lot of FOMO there. But Nick, do you want to comment on your beard routine? That, of course, that was one of the questions.
The beard routine. I don't do that much. I'm a hairy dude. But I do go with a company called Live Bearded. They're all American. They're all natural. So some beard products that I'll name names. The Beard Struggle. They have a lot of like chemicals in them for the fragrance, and that creates some skin irritation on my face, and it'll make me break out. And I'm not someone who even has that sensitive of skin, but just something I'm putting in daily. I use them. I use the oil. The oil is actually not for the beard; it's for the skin underneath. As your beard grows, it draws the oil away from the skin. That's where you get the dryness. So I use oil, a couple drops of oil, put on my fingertips, and massage it into my skin. Then I use what's called a beard butter. It's
Mm,
about medium hold,
sounds
but it
delicious.
basically softens the beard and controls the flyaways. And I use about a dime-sized amount for all this, and then I just comb it in, and then takes me about 90 seconds. Then I go about my day.
Interesting. You shouldn't be talking about butter when we're trying to cut weight. So, but that's a very good routine. I might bring back the beard one day. I haven't rocked a beard in Strongman since 2018. So maybe
Dude,
I'll
you're
take
Italian. You pull it
maybe
off.
I'll take some tips. And then so of course those are the most of the fan questions. But one of the questions that I always kind of like, especially kind of heading into a show like OSG, we're gonna have like 400 competitors, almost 50 people per weight class. So there's gonna be a lot of big names. But what advice would you give to a fellow competitor competing at OSG in 4 weeks? What are the suggestions from the champs?
Go ahead, Ricky.
I mean, I screwed up here whenever I first went into OSG. But my advice is stay in your lane, focus on you, just do you, and then have fun. You're at OSG, you're competing with the best of the best, just and then like said, do you do. I say that because whenever the first event for last year was the log press, and I find out my heat, what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before or something like that, whatever it is. And I'm right next to Andrew Hanus. And then I already get in my head like, oh crap, I'm gonna get roasted. This dude's gonna just he's gonna win, obviously, and he does win. And I got in my head and then just like I still had an okay performance, but like compared to training, that was still pretty poor compared to what I was expecting. Um, Thankfully my dad was just like, hey, like okay, first event jitters on the world stage, walk it off. Like next event is your favorite event, yoke, or one of your favorite events, just move on. So stay in your lane, do you. Don't worry about anybody else.
I like it. Short-term memory, I always say. Of course, if you ever have an event, just like
Yeah.
football, you can't just one play and get back at the other. How about yourself, Nikolai?
Same thing. A lot of people, I feel like they're so caught up in stalking how other people's training's going and what numbers they're putting up. And what I've learned in this sport is that a lot of people look really good in training, and then game day, it's a different animal. There's so many variables with things, but staying in your lane allows you to control and minimize your focus into a bandwidth. Your only responsibility needs to be doing your job, which is each event and recovering between each event. That's where your focus needs to be on nothing else, no one else. Um, and doing that alone will eliminate a lot of potential mistakes. By just focusing all that mental bandwidth on execution, event to event, short term memory. I botched my sandbag toss and then came back and executed on stones. And I took about 5 minutes to go get pissed off, take my hat off, throw it in a room where no one wasn't around, and just be extremely pissed at myself for 5 minutes, settle down, and then focus on the next event. So focus on you, do you, um, and just enjoy the the environment of being in, you know, an environment of where everyone there is trying to do the same thing you're trying to do. You're all in it together because of that.
Awesome. Terrific answer. I want to build upon, of course, staying in your lane. You guys both kind of mentioned it, but especially within training, you're going to see people doing certain training numbers. Focus on your own training. I yelled at my buddy Tommy Sharp training when we were both going after the max dumbbell, and he hit 270. And my plan at one point was to hit 275. That was going to be my last attempt before I start a new block and build back up. It was my first time actually doing like a single max, and I hit 275. And he saw that. And a couple days later, he went for 280. And I kind of yelled at him, like, "It's like, what?" He's like, "Did you have that plan?" He's like, "No, I saw you do it." I'm like, Tommy, you gotta focus on your training. You only have so many attempts in you. So I always say is that don't look at other people's training, focus on your own. Don't change your other training just for that, because if you do, then that you're giving the competitor what they want, really, because I want people to rather focus on me and not focus on what they're doing, and then it's gonna make it that much easier to win. So focus on yourself, people. But that's all the questions for today. Of course, thank you guys for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
I'll go first. I'm pretty straightforward. Ricky.lift is my Instagram handle. Facebook, I guess, just look up Richard Pang Anaban. I literally have the same profile picture. I mean, everything's linked there. I'm kind of just like hidden away here in Clovis, California, and just doing medical school. And then other than that, yeah, that's pretty much my main focus. But yeah,
How about you, Mr. Nikolai?
You can find me pretty much where you can find everyone else. It's like Google me, bitch. No. Uncle.Nick, that's NIC, on Instagram, Nikolai Myers on Facebook and stuff. Keep an eye out for the Nitro Circus 4-part series that's coming out for the Border to Border that we just did. And then there will be one full length piece coming out on the Can-Am territory as well. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm around. I'm in here in Phoenix, Arizona. Train out of Liberty Performance. I'll plug my coach Max, my nutritionist Quentin, and then as always, Nick, it's a pleasure. I love that you're doing this. I love that you're giving these athletes a platform to talk about their experiences, their concerns, giving people these questions to interact with us. And I think it's great what you're doing. And however we can continue to help you with this journey that you're doing within the sport, I'm happy to help and promote what you got going on.
I would get as much benefit, of course, listening, probably more than the listeners. I always learn something. I wrote down, you guys made me self-conscious about my shoe wear, so I might have to upgrade my shoes. So I have the zeros, but I'm thinking like it is this weird slippery floor, the convention floor. Maybe I should upgrade my shoe wear, or maybe just get a new pair. So you guys motivate me to be better. By every episode, I take a few things away and make myself better. So thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for coming on. And then remember, folks listening at home, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, so you know where when all the new episodes come out. Tell your friends, tell your family. See you guys in Daytona, and until next time, stay strong. Oh, I screwed up there. Stay strong.